Right then, so hello everybody, Mr. Whippy here, welcome back to the show. I'll be comparing this little camera and see if it is good enough still for 2019. See, I'm obviously not using this camera anymore, I'm using my new camera, as you may notice. Yes, I am now using the Canon EOS 77D. Do expect a review from that a little bit sooner. I'm going to do a review on the G1X Mark II. You can't really see the Mark II on the actual camera unit, it's up here. There you go. So, yeah. This camera has been great to me over the couple of years. End of 2016, I got this camera for my 14th birthday. I got it for my 14th birthday, and I was amazed because I was stuck with this Sony A580. Yeah, and don't get me wrong, it had like amazing video quality, but the one factor that it was missing and I really wanted was autofocus, which is what this camera really does really well. I was stuck with having to use the manual focus on the camera, which was definitely quite hard on a very bright lens. It was a 2.8 Aperture Sigma lens that only had manual focus, and it was very hard to try and keep the subject in sharp, crisp image and in focus, because it was just so hard to focus with the really bright lens. Yeah, this lens you're looking at now is not the brightest, it's f4 to 5.6 when you zoom in, but it has IS, so it's all image stabilized as well. There's not really much point of it at the moment because you're on a tripod. This G1X has been awesome to me over the years. It's not mine anymore, it's not my dad's, I just had to borrow it off of him for the moment. But yeah, is it any good still? I believe it is. This is still a great camera for like family shoots, even doing YouTube, and you don't really care so much about audio quality and video quality, because I have noticed when I got this camera, the autofocus used to be quite good, because this camera right now, as you can see, it just focuses on everything really smoothly and it keeps it doesn't hunt. It's got dual pixel autofocus, which is Canon's best autofocusing mechanism, and the reason why I've kept with Canon. This one doesn't. This one doesn't have Canon's dual pixel autofocus. This has just got Canon's basic focus. I don't really know, to be honest with you. The autofocusing, it does do it in video. It does do it. The maximum video quality you do get with this camera though is 1080p 30. And the camera will only do 30 FPS, so even if you bump the resolution down to 720p, it will only do 30, which is a bit of a downside. Unlike this one will go up to 60 frames per second, but at the moment I'm shooting at 30 because I don't need it. Yes, as you guys, well, some of you might want, is a flippy up screen, and it has that nice flippy up screen, and it clicks into place, which is really nice quality. And it also tilts down if you were trying to get some low shots as well. Unfortunately, it doesn't have a microphone jack, which does put this camera a little bit more down, but all the PowerShot series don't have microphone jacks. But what I found cool about this camera is that you can see there's no flash. But if you click this button on the side here where you push it forwards, boop, there's the flash. And you've got a flash, and you can, as long as you don't push it back too far, push it down too far, it does to dogs, darn dogs. This audio thing is going to be really funny. Yeah, if you push down the flash a bit too far, the camera will recognise that the flash is down. So as long as you sort of do it slightly. You can point it in different directions, but it's only up or down. So that's main difference. Also with this camera, you've got a 5x zoom, which I do believe is the furthest, well actually the most far zoomed, well the most zoomed Canon PowerShot camera. As some of you guys might know, the Canon G7X, I think there might be a Mark II out now of that, and this is the G1X, don't get confused. It has a 3x zoom, and otherwise known, it has a 3x zoom, but this one has a 5x zoom, so it really gets in quite far. The video on this camera is great. The only thing is, if I show you some example footage right now, you can see that I'm trying to point the video at my camera I'm using right now, but it doesn't want to focus. And when it does focus, is when I'm actually touched the screen to tell it to focus there. As you can see, it's hunting. You can see a little bit of like the bokeh from the image in front. It's focused on the background, and it's trying to focus on the what's in front of it. But you can see that the bokeh is sort of like going in and out, so it's getting sharper then much more softer. That's because it's hunting all the time, which is very annoying when you're trying to shoot something and you want to get it in focus quick enough, but it won't have it. So yeah, video quality. Right then, I'm doing a audio test from my Canon 77D with the Rode Micro on top, and versus the G1X Mark II. I personally do think that this camera's got a good audio level. It's good enough for people who want to do YouTube with. Otherwise, my new camera obviously has a microphone jack, so I'm able to use the accessibility of a nice quality, good audio. There's a bit of wind outside, so I don't know if you're hearing the wind from the Canon G1X. When I do turn it away, I think you can sort of tell that you can definitely tell the different sound waves from this camera. For 2019, 1080p is standard still. You may be looking at 4K, like things are starting to get more into 4K, but I just bought this camera, it doesn't have 4K, as you can see right now. I'm using 1080p, but I don't think 1080p will be changing anytime soon, because it is just standard resolution, and it is like really crisp quality. So yeah, this camera, there is a Mark III of this camera now, but I think it's like £1,000, so it's even more than the camera I'm using right now, which is better in some cases. But the new camera does have dual pixel autofocus, so if you really wanted that dual pixel autofocus, I probably won't recommend that camera to you, really. I'll probably recommend the M50 to you, just because it's got interchangeable lenses, and it basically does the same thing. It's the same size, but for a cheaper price, and it does 4K. But bearing in mind, this 4K, it does have a huge crop factor on that sensor. So if you were shooting in 4K, an 18mm lens will turn into like a 50mm lens, let's just say. That's probably dead, it's probably wrong, but it will turn into that. Otherwise, this camera, as you can see, no viewfinder. Yes, it doesn't have a viewfinder, but there is an accessory for that. It was quite expensive, but I'll show a price of it on the screen right now to my left. Or it might be your right, I don't know. I'm looking at me. I don't know. Yeah, the viewfinder will be electronic, so obviously with the DSLR I'm using right now, which is right, it's called a DSLR, it has an actual mirror inside the camera. It's not using the mirror now, it's flicked up because I'm in video mode, because it will be blank otherwise. But the viewfinder, the G1X's actually come with this little protector for your thing. Yeah, it literally just slips on in there, and then you can start using a viewfinder, just like a normal, basically a DSLR, but an SLR, because it ain't got a mirror. Yeah. Also, this camera's has got Wi-Fi. The software is not actually out of date. I got this camera in 2016, and this model actually came out in 2014. So I got the updated version of the software on this camera. It's also got a Digit 6 image processor in this camera, so it's quite good. It's one below the most highest one, I think, because I think the highest Canon does at the moment is digit 7, which is what's in this camera. And what the digit processors do is it tries to lower the noise in the cameras as well. Also, you have a dedicated record button, which is what I like. And also, if you are a beginner, you've also have got these auto modes on the camera ring. So obviously these green ones here, you just select which one you want to use, and it should make it a lot more easier for you getting beginners. I have it personally on the. Oh, it's going to focus on my face because it's got face tracking on, guys. It will personally, if you're going to do video, just do that one. It is easy enough to navigate through the video. All you got to do is click the red button on the back, and then if it's not focusing, just touch the screen where you want to focus on. That's for video quality. The menus are actually pretty nice on this camera, I'll have to admit. What you do get this sort of styling of menu. It's also touch screen, so you can scroll through it and just tap wherever you want. Yep. So also with video, I almost forgot, it does have IS. Now this IS, I do believe it's in the lens, and it's also in the sensor. There's also digital image stabilization, so you get that really smooth footage of whatever you want. And the lowest aperture this camera can actually go to is f2, I believe. But it's not a fixed f2 lens. It does go up to 3.9 when zooming in. So it's a bit like this lens you're looking at right now. But yeah, this sensor inside this camera is a little bit smaller than the APS-C size sensor, which is pretty much standard, which is what you're looking at through right now. You also have a ring. Yay, it's a lot more easier to navigate through the menus, I believe, with this ring, because all those clicky nav buttons, it still clicks. You can still click on what you want, but it does help a little bit. Also on the front here, you got these two rings, these two dials, sort of thing, and these dials change to whatever you like on the different modes on the top of the camera. So if you put them into slightly different modes, these rings will be assigned to functions that are designed for these different modes. So like TV mode will turn into your shutter speed. So this will, if you keep flicking that back, it will turn into control your shutter speed. Sorry, you can hear an ambulance now. So if you put this camera into AV mode, basically it's your depth of field, more bokeh basically mode for the background or the foreground. So this big ring will control your aperture, and if you switch it to manual focus, which is this little button on the back, this little button right here, your front ring will be your focusing point. But I've noticed with this camera, you'll keep doing this when focusing, so what you can do is literally just use the ring on the back, which just makes it go faster, the focus. So, and then this one is more for like neatening out to make it as sharp as possible, this ring. So I wouldn't really recommend just keep doing this. So yeah, that's it for video quality. Picture quality, on the other hand, this has 13 megapixels, which is slightly less than standard. As standard, this one's got 24 megapixels for image quality. But as long as you're going for 12 and above megapixels, that is absolutely fine. 13 megapixels is more than enough to get a really crisp image. And if you were looking at the width and height of the image, it is slightly more than 4K if you put it into that terms, basically. But yeah, 13 megapixels is really nice for this little camera. And also this lens is actually kind of wide. As you can see on the front, at the bottom of the lens, it says that 12.5 to 62.5. When you're shooting like this, you don't have to hold it out so far. You can actually have it quite close in, and you'll still have the whole your face basically. Because what I'm shooting on is at 18 to 55, and this is a 12.5 to 62, so it can go quite far. It really can. So for image quality, if I did a little tester for you guys, if I just show you it. So this, if you wanted to get maximum bokeh, you want f2. So if I take a picture, guys, there you go. And then The only thing I do notice with this lens, as you probably can tell on the image, is that it does sort of like look like it's bulging out like a GoPro, like what you see off a GoPro. Everything looks really quite like, you know, round. If you zoom in, it gives it a more natural effect. So then, I believe that this camera is great for people who want to do the light videos, because it only has 1080p. Well, it has 1080p, which is great. Only 30 FPS, which is, you can't really do slow motion with this camera very well. The quality of this camera is actually really well built. It doesn't feel plasticky, which Canon has quite a lot of plastic cameras. But no, this camera is very good quality. Everything feels like metal, honestly, and all the buttons are not squishy. They're really nice to press. And yeah, this is just a great camera for beginners, people who are starting their YouTube channels, and for people who are just in families and just want to take nice pictures of their holiday. The Canon G1X Mark II, guys, here for you faces, and I hope you liked this video. Alright, see you in the next one, guys.